MARIS, Fathom of the Night, is the 4th enhanced boss to appear in Elden Ring Night Reign, and is our first gimmick fight. Hi boys, I'm Chris Kress. I beat Space Luck 2.0 multiple times solo and with teams, and I'm here to bring you an actually useful boss guide. If anyone wants a guide for regular Augur, I have it at the end of the video. With that said, let's get straight into it. Starting it off, here's a few tips for phase 1 so you don't waste any flasks. Firstly, it has only 3 moves. For the Vortex, time your roll slightly after mist is conjured beneath the boss and dodge into it. For the dash, wait until the boss's head turns upwards before dodging to the side. For the waves, if you're right next to the boss, dodge after you hear the sound effect. But if you're further away, dodge when you see its length sort of match the length of the boss HP bar. Also, it takes 40% extra damage to lightning, attacking the head does 50% extra damage and stance damage, and once stance broken, you can sneak in a heavy attack before riposting. Sadly, the enhanced version cannot be riposted, and neither does it take extra damage by being hit in the head. Anyways, that's the pre-guide done. Let's begin. Once you defeat phase 1, the boss will drop a +3 version of your character's starting weapon, now equipped with a special stance skill, which is exclusively what you want to be hitting the boss with. This does 3 things. Holding it charges FP, attacking while holding the stance allows you to send out a chain of small beams, and holding it for exactly 4 seconds will charge up a mega beam. The mega beam is as strong as exactly 5 small beams, but since it takes 1.5 seconds just to cast, the small ones actually have about 16% better DPS and aren't as punishing to miss, but have the downside of consuming a lot of FP, which you always want to have on hand as these beams can do so much more than just attack. With that said, let's get into the moveset. The most common move you will encounter in the entire fight is the Bubble Shower. This attack can come in bursts of 2 or a barrage of 9. Here, the boss will rain down a bunch of bubbles from the sky that will detonate in a small AoE after landing, which can deal a significant amount of damage if you get hit by multiple at once. Your first instinct might be to outspace or dodge them, but this is unreliable, as what you're supposed to do is dispel them with either of your beam attacks. Here's how I personally deal with them. The burst of 2 are telegraphed whenever the boss flies around, almost creating an infinity sign, and can easily be dealt with by using 2 or more small beams or 1 big beam. The barrage of 9, however, is a bit tricky. Telegraph when the boss flies away and comes around in a big arc. Here's a step-by-step and what I do to get through it relatively unscathed. Firstly, as soon as I recognize the move, I immediately charge out my weapon for the big beam and FP recovery. Then I'd hold it until the first 2 waves reach me, where I'd use the big beam to dispel both at once, before immediately chaining a few small beams to cancel waves 3 and 4. From here, the next 2 waves will have a small pocket where you can drop the stance and regen some stamina in between beams. I'm mentioning this right now because the rest will appear in rapid succession, and thus you'll need a lot of stamina to spam away the bubbles. I know that was a lot, but trust me, sooner or later it's gonna get built into your muscle memory, and if you can follow even half of that, it would probably save you a few heals. Also, here's another instance of me doing it, just in case you needed another example. Moving on, we have the dash attack. Here, you want to dodge a bit later compared to the regular version. What I like to do is walk to the side and wait until the boss does 1 full rotation and the body condenses into 1 neat torpedo, before rolling to the side or into it. I'm kinda crap at dodging it though, so sometimes I like using tap ults to guarantee an evasion. It's not like I was gonna use it against the boss anyway, so might as well. Next up, we have the laser beams. Telegraphed whenever the boss does a really slow backflip, this can appear in 1s and 2s, shooting a beam of light at the floor before detonating a massive AoE. In the right conditions, this move can be strafed, but after a bit of testing, I find it to be super inconsistent. Also, you can't jump it. So instead, I'm going to teach you how to spot dodge it, and believe it or not, it's actually very consistent. There's 2 signs you want to look out for, but I'll leave a circle on screen to help guide you. Green means roll, but if you're colorblind, it's the slightly larger circle. The first sign is visual, and that's when the ground lights up and doesn't get any brighter. I want you to dodge immediately after you notice this, as you have to be in the rolling animation before the first explosion goes off to successfully dodge it. The other is auditory, whenever the sound goes from a sort of blowing noise to a sort of ringing noise. Once again, roll as soon as you notice this change. I know this may seem daunting, but use both signs to help pinpoint the dodge. I believe in you. After this, we have the big wave attack. Telegraphed whenever the boss flies backwards, surrounded by a cloud of mist, feel free to charge up your weapon as soon as you see the aura, as the boss will slow down right in front of you as it summons the wave, giving you a free big beam punish. Also, because that tide isn't reaching you in time. That said, this move also has another variant after the boss reaches about 40% HP, where the boss summons 3 waves in a row in this pattern. To tell whether or not the boss will do the single wave or triple wave, check if it slows down after the first tide or keeps going. Now, as much as I'd love to say I have a strategy for avoiding this, nah. I tried mega beaming the wave once and was sorely disappointed. You missed an opportunity, FromSoft. But yeah, unfortunately, you're just gonna have to run around it. Though, make sure to regular sprint to conserve stamina, and if you have a mobility skill, now's the time to use it. Is what I would say if you didn't have access to the tech. By using the Crimson Wall Bubble Tier, which is a semi-common item sold by Day 3 Merchant, it will completely nullify all damage taken within the wave, allowing you to literally stand inside of it. This probably only works for like one combo, but nonetheless, it's peak. Anyways, the last move before the orbs is the Sleep Wave. This is telegraphed when the boss makes this noise before spinning backwards and falling down on its back. As soon as you notice this, quickly charge up your weapon and land a big beam as fast as you can, as this macro staggers the boss, saving you from unapproved nap time. I also believe that it takes more than one big beam in multi, but I shouldn't have to mention this, because you have no reason not to use the big beam when you see it. Also, I remember one game where I got 2 plus 75 resistance buffs and still got slept. So yeah, you ain't tanking this. Unless you do. At which point, damn. Finally, we have the orbs. This appears after the boss reaches about 70% HP, and is telegraphed when the boss flies in a spiral pattern like this, which by the way, you can punish with a big beam if you charge the weapon fast enough. The main thing this does is that each orb shoots an ultra precise laser at you, and that it almost exclusively accompanies the other moves that I've already mentioned. Here's a list. Once after the initial summon, once after every dash attack, once before each laser beam, meaning 2 if the boss does 2 in a row, once before every big wave, meaning 3 times if the boss does the triple wave, except that makes too much sense, so FromSoft added 1 more after the last wave. I realized this while editing, and I'm pissed off. Anyways, and twice if the boss does the sleep move, with the only move it doesn't accompany being the bubble rain. Thank God. To deal with this, the big beam can completely trivialize them if you have it charged up. Unless your timing is pure dog shit, using it to dispel them is super consistent. The small beam is also capable of doing this, although it's much riskier, as you actually have to worry about timing if you want to do that. If you're interested though, I'd say time it a split second before you feel like it should be rolled. That said, since the lasers are so precise, the dodge timings are super forgiving. Simply dodge to the side after the orbs stop flashing and release a small pulse, or just run sideways. Either of which should be your main way of dealing with the move for most of the instances they appear. Just deal with them the exact same way, but just remember that the beams exist. Except for the sleep move, where you want to charge your weapon while walking to the side as hard as you possibly can to have the lasers barely miss you. There's a chance it can hit you, especially on uneven ground, but it's safe more often than not. Also, I don't think it can stun you out of it, so make sure you land that big beam. Lastly, you may notice that you're able to lock onto them. This is because they can very much be destroyed, with each orb down reducing the lasers by 1, and once all 5 are down, this will cause the boss to stance break, giving you a full 15 seconds to wail on the boss, with each hit dealing roughly 20% more damage than it usually does. Remember what I said about the small beams having better DPS? Well, if you have Starlight Shards, now's the time to pop them. That said, breaking them should never be a priority, as generally, they're pretty damn hard to hit, and that you'll be wasting precious damage just trying to land them all day. Instead, just fight the boss as normal, but try to get in a few hits now and again whenever the boss slows down or you feel confident. The openings I recommend are, immediately after the initial summon, Big Bubble Rain, and Waves. Also, because you can stance break the boss the same way you normally do, with constant pressure and aggression. Heck, it also breaks all the orbs for you. By the way, whether or not you stance break the boss, all 5 orbs will respawn after about 100 seconds. Finally, here's a few things I want to mention before I end this video. 1. Starlight Shards are not needed, but can be really useful, as every second you save means more time to hit the boss, which is especially useful for stance breaks or later on in the fight. If you ever find Big Merch, just know he sells an infinite amount. 2. While fighting bosses on day 1 and day 2, the stamina regen and FP boosting buffs are good for the exact same reason as point number 1. 3. Keep a good balance between attacking and charging your weapon. Always have at least some FP in the tank, just in case. Trust me, you don't want to be empty during the bubble rain. 4. You can technically still hit the boss with other moves, with ults capable of micro-staggering it. That said, Iron Eye's ult is really the only one that's consistent, and even so, it's not that helpful. And yeah, that's the enhanced MARIS guide done. If this video helped you out, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Spread the word that actually useful boss guides do exist, cause I need to feed my cat. But anyways, here's Here's a full fight for anyone who wants it. And like I said in the beginning, the boss guy for regular Augur will be right behind us. With all that said, I hope you have a great day.
How long does it take to put one of those videos together after you get all the footage?
Depends on how much sleep I want.
Fair.
Ah! Fuck. This one I'm a bit late on schedule, so I'm gonna try and be fast.
Okay.
Smack him in the head. Boop. Wait, actually, I wonder if you can Karen retaliate the Mega Beams. Oh well. Ouch. I ran out of stamina or something? What happened there? What? Oh. Ah, I should have hit the boss. Double hit, nice. Actually, I have Crimson Wall. What am I worrying about?
How long does that last again? Like 15 seconds or so?
Enough for the entire wave. Oh my god, stop using this move! It scares me! Oh wait, no, we're fine. Let's save my... Oh, yeah, that's my fault. Whoopsie. Sheesh. Nice. What a nice ending. You would not believe my reaction after I scripted this entire segment in advance, just for the Everdark to be a gimmick fight. Forgive my subpar editing at points, I'm tired. Anyways, here's the guide for regular Augur. Starting it off, I want to quickly touch on the ranged versus melee debate. After a bit of testing, I believe that range definitely has more of an advantage, but melee isn't so much worse that it's unusable. For now, I want to direct you to the most important topic, and that's carrying lightning damage. Not only does the boss take 40% extra damage from it, which is crazy good on its own, but since the boss runs away so much, each hit you land matters so much more. And that's without even mentioning being able to counter an otherwise unavoidable move. Also, whenever fighting this boss, always lock on and aim for the head, melee or not, as it does more damage and stance damage. Anyways, with that said, let's talk about phase 1. The most common attack this boss does in the entire fight is definitely the waves. With each time, MARIS is able to do the move once, twice, or 3 times max. Since the projectile slowly bounces forward, it's very easy to roll early and get clipped. So to dodge this, what I like to do is wait until the waves seem to be around the same size as the boss's HP bar, or generally in your face before dodging it. From here, make sure the boss is done attacking before running after it, as I find that chasing after it before it's done often leads to you getting hit more often than not and just waste stamina, which could have been used to punish the boss. Instead, simply walk towards the boss in between every wave to conserve your stamina. Then once you feel like the boss is done attacking, go for it. The next move I want to cover is the Jellyfish Summon, and holy crap, do not sleep on this, especially in solos. For those who don't know, attacking the jellies will cause bubbles to shoot right back to the boss, dealing both damage and stance damage. The damage may be low, but since there's so many of them, they can often pile up. But more importantly, this attack is a super reliable source of stance damage and stance pressure, even for ranged characters, so much so that in solos, this is where most of my stance damage comes from. Back to the jellies. If you're melee, lock off to manually aim your weapon. It allows you to quickly turn in any direction and land more hits. You can also switch up the moveset, like using tap R2s on the greatsword or jump R2s on the halberds to extend your horizontal reach and hit more jellies. If you're ranged, keep the lock on, but between every attack, swiftly move the camera left or right to quickly switch between targets and take down as many jellies as you can. Even bare fist can easily kill them, so don't worry about your damage. That said, if you do miss your attacks, you can simply back off to outspace the AoEs. Moving on, we have the Vortex. This attack cannot be surge sprinted away from and will clip you if you roll backwards. Instead, roll into it when you see a mist conjure underneath the boss. Also, there's a sound cue. This boss also has a forward dash move, which you can dodge by rolling to the side as you see its head sort of curve upwards. For now, this move doesn't have a follow-up, but bear in mind, by the time you run after it, it'll probably start attacking again. Anyways, after reaching about 80% HP, the boss will do an animation very similar to the wave attack, dealing low damage all around the boss and summoning tentacles all around the arena. If you're wondering, the tentacles only have 3 moves, either a triple head whip, single head whip, or a spin. You're welcome. Now, these tentacles can be killed like the jellies, but unlike them, they often take more than just one hit to finish off and barely deal more damage than a single jelly. For this reason, besides getting rid of them because they're annoying, I would just ignore them and focus on trying to attack the boss instead. If they bother you, no worries. All tentacles can be easily dispelled by stance breaking the boss. I've already mentioned the jellies, but there's another really consistent way. This brings me to the last move he has in this phase, being the arena-wide sleep wave. This move appears about every 90 seconds and is telegraphed whenever the boss makes this sound cue, before floating away and falling down on its back. Failure to dispel this will result in an arena-wide AoE, proccing sleep and dealing damage to all nearby allies. I'm not even sure if you can run away from this, because using free camp, the sleep smoke seems to extend a massive distance. Anyways, just like Fulgor, by attacking this boss 4 times or less depending on the weapon, this will not only cancel the move, but also send it into an electrified state. By the way, make sure to land a few attacks immediately after the stun, it's a free opening. This electrified state does 2 things, dealing damage over time, which is decent, but more importantly, it prevents the boss from regaining any stance, which you can use to your advantage to cash in a stance break. And when you do, make sure to land a quick heavy before and after the riposte, just to squeeze out a bit more damage. Back to the sleep wave, you could use the damage dealing ult to stun him out of it, but I'd advise against it, as it causes the ult to deal reduced damage, and even if you do get a stance break, you would have gotten one anyway with the help of the electrified state. Instead, save it for Phase 2. At around 60% HP, the boss will rise into the air covered in smoke. This does no damage, so try to land some hits on the boss if you can. It's after the boss comes down where I recommend using your ult, because 9 times out of 10, the boss will summon the tentacles right after phase transitioning. So by using your ult, you can prevent this from happening. Also because the boss leaves itself completely open. Moving on, this phase has gotta have the least amount of changes from phase 1 to phase 2 that I have ever seen. It's literally 3 things. The jellyfish summon now appears in 2 waves, with the first wave having the same amount as phase 1, but the second spawning way more jellies. Here's where I'd like to mention the Iron Eyes Mark, Guardian skill with increased duration relic, and Executor Scream while using the ult are all crazy useful ways of dealing with them. 2. The boss now always does the dash attack twice. If it does the first one right next to you, roll it and wait a bit for the boss to come back. If it does it further away from you, you'll probably have to dodge the second one. And 3. The only truly new move in this phase is the Teardrop Nuke. Telegraphed whenever the boss spirals upwards, MARIS will drop a breakable slow falling projectile. That on impact will deal massive damage and sleep buildup in a giant AoE. To dodge this, run away as the boss is rising upwards and not when you see the teardrop to prevent any close calls. Also, while doing so, make sure you run in the opposite direction of the boss, as it's fairly common the boss drops a second nuke, which can be outspaced, but can easily catch you off guard. That said, just like the jellies, this can also be destroyed, and if you have a ranged weapon, I highly recommend you do this, as it does a fairly decent amount of damage to the boss while cancelling the nuke. As for melee, not so much. Also, if the boss drops a second nuke after you destroy the first one, just stand where the last nuke was. The AoE won't reach you. Yeah, don't try to destroy that second one. Also, here's the resistance sheet. Just take it. I'm tired and I'm taking a break.